And just so that everybody is aware, Ken is attending via speakerphone, because he's not here, that's why I'm chairing the meeting, but Ken is listening in, so, just so you all know, that's why my phone is here.
Ken, are you listening?
Yeah, I had to unmute my
Oh,
phone. So
all right. Okay, everybody hear me out there? Before we get into this, what I want to cover, I want to explain something to everybody. This issue that I want to discuss is complicated, but it's not personal. It took many months to investigate this problem before concluding that the town should not get involved in creating an ordinance that would charge a fee if private property is used for camping. This conclusion is my opinion derived from facts and may differ from yours. That's okay. We still live in a free country. My intent is not to divide my community or to upset anyone. Informing the public is part of my job as a boardman. So I'm going to talk about this stuff, and we're not going to take public input because basically you're just observing a conversation that the board is having. Okay. Last month during the correspondence received, Ken said that he received an email from Tom Goodwin. Tom is a leader. He's in the leadership of the Woods Property Owners Association, or they call it the WPOA. And Tom has addressed the board before on updates that things that are going on in the beach club as far as their lawsuit is concerned. The WPOA was formed partly to encourage enforcement of covenants and restriction rules for members of the Loch Lomond Beach Club, or they call it a LLBC. Ken isn't here tonight, he's on the phone, but I'd like to have Corey read the email from Tom Goodwin so that you can know what was said in that letter.
All right. All right, the attached below is a post made by Gladys Rue on Tony's Facebook page. I'm bringing this to your attention for two reasons. First, Gladys's description of the WPOA is inaccurate and serves to increase the tensions that already exist in our community. Second, you'll note that the bottom of her post appears the logo for Cedar Lake Township, making it appear as if this is somehow coming from the township. Tony and Gladys have every right to express their own opinion, but as elected officials of Cedar Lake Township, what's communicated should be accurate and not lead to increased tensions within the community. In addition, the inclusion of the Cedar Lake logo on Tony's Facebook page gives the impression the content is somehow coming from the township, which it is not. I've also attached a description of the WPOA. This document was created and circulated in April of 2021. The purpose and intent of the WPOA remains unchanged.
Okay, and Tom's email was addressed to Ken, but there was a copy sent to both Corey and I. We were copied in, and this was all on our town email addresses, so it's public record. Gladys was not copied in on those emails. When Ken read that letter, I asked him why he read it. I didn't really understand why. He just said that it was correspondence that he had received. So I wanted to include an email that was received at the same time from Doug Fisher, who was sent again to Ken and copied Corey and I on our email. Doug Fisher is he's also a member of the WPOA, and he's also a member of the LLBC, and he wrote an email on the same subject. I'm not sure why Ken didn't include that in his correspondence, but like to include it now, and if Corey would read that, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. All right, so this is the email from Doug Fisher that Tony just mentioned. Tony, I am disappointed on the recent attack on Ken Lenners sent out by social media. Your comments regarding an ordinance submitted over a year ago is now a moot point. The recent judicial ruling has supported not only what the WPOA was formed for, but significantly will impact those people mostly non-constituents, as camping will not be allowed in the LLBC residential boundaries. As a township board member, you have constantly listened to a group of non-residents and not listened to the constituents who have been impacted directly by indigent actions of a group known as the Birchwood Crew. At this time, you seem to be supported by a group of people who have no concern for the issues faced by all LLBC members. You now are running a negative campaign based on an ordinance that is not only moot, but has caused division among the township board and the constituents who have voted for you. When I vote for an incumbent, I vote for a candidate who informs voters of what he has accomplished, not on an issue that has no negative impact on you personally, and which continues to cause division among our leaders. Please stop this negativity. There is enough of it in the world already.
When I received these two emails, my first thought was, why don't people call each other anymore? I called both of them on the phone because I wanted to discuss their concerns, but also explain, what happened when it came to. I have a Facebook page that's called Re-elect Tony Wolf, and it's not a personal page; it's a political page that Facebook allows so that people can run campaigns. Like Romaine had one, continues to have one. So that's what that page is. It's not my personal Facebook page. They both thought that I was misrepresenting the WPOA, and they pleaded for the need to bring down the temperature on this issue because it's dividing the community. The town logo being included on the page was because I referred to our website minutes, so that people that wanted to know what was going on could go to our minutes and find out. And when I posted that, the link showed a logo of the town of Cedar Lake that wasn't meant to be officially from the town. They both wanted me to tell Gladys how to act and what she should say, and I told them that I wouldn't do that. I told Doug specifically that if he had an issue with Gladys, he should call her. Well, he didn't call her, he texted her. And Gladys allowed permission to read this text. It was a personal text on her phone, it wasn't through the town. I'm going to ask Corey to read that.
All right, so this is the text message. Your message this morning in regards to the WPOA is extremely disturbing. As a township representative, you should remain neutral on all issues. Your comments stating WPOA members hate campers is nothing but a lie based on your own ignorance of the facts. The fact is, the WPOA came together to defend the LLBC covenants and restrictions. The judge's order also states that camping violates the covenants and restrictions. Your statements have no basis. By the way, Ken Lenners has done more for this township than anyone, including doing much of your work. He should be praised, not prosecuted by a group of gossiping people who spread only lies. Because of recent communications on social media, my support for Tony has been tainted, and your constant attacks on homeowners, especially lake homeowners, will not be tolerated. If I were on the township board, I would ask for your resignation, as your actions and those of non-residents has caused the real division here.
So much for keeping the temperature down. Gladys, that text that was sent to you, was that just to you, or was that?
Yeah, Mr. Ken letters too.
So there was he was in on the text then. Ken, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but again, I gotta take it up. Go ahead.
Did you hear the reading of that text that I talked about from Gladys?
Yes, I heard it.
Did you receive a copy of it at the time?
This correspondence that you're talking about, I need to understand what is your point? That is correspondence to a treasurer, that's good. It's not correspondence to, a supervisor. So if Gladys has issues, let her speak, don't speak for her.
Well, the reason I'm bringing it up is because I wanted to determine if this was something that you read and if you had taken any action as a result of the text, such as did you agree with what Doug said?
Tony, I am not on trial here, so get to the point.
So you don't want to answer any questions about that then?
Sit again.
You don't want to answer any questions about Gladys?
I want Gladys to speak for herself. You are not representing her. Let her speak for herself. If she has a question for me, let her ask it.
You don't want to ask any questions?
Well, why, of all the emails he gets, he had to read that under correspondence.
Well, the real question is, of all the emails we get, why did someone else not share some of the information? Why it appears as though some people are unwilling to share that information. So the real question is, everyone received it on board, no one spoke about it. Ignoring it is not going to make it go away.
You gotta read everything.
Okay, well, I will get to my point then. The fact is that the board has been divided on this issue, and certain members are being, well, as Ken likes to say, disrespected. I think that in the case of this text that you should have defended Gladys, and that's actually what I'm doing tonight, is defending her from the comments that Doug had made, and this is why it matters. The influence of the WPOA is demonstrated by these emails and texts of two leaders within the group. Tom Goodwin, who started the WPOA, disagreed with an opinion I had posted on my campaign for re-election page, and Gladys shared it. He fires an email off to the chairman, who reads the complaint in an open meeting to shut me down. Why? Because I was concerned about an undue influence by the WPOA over our board members, specifically Ken. And to illustrate how much Ken is influenced by the WPOA, I want to read for you part of what he wrote in the town's website concerning this ordinance that he's been trying to get through the town board. He said the town of Cedar Lake chairman consulted with the WTA attorneys and the town's municipal law attorney after the August 8th, 2022 town board meeting. Their advice was that we do not commit time and effort to a non-binding referendum in November based on the current board's refusal to take action during the past 15 months. They stated that it would be better to seek candidates for the upcoming April election that are willing to be proactive in resolving this issue. By the way, Ken, did we ever get a bill for that attorney's recommendation?
Nothing has changed. We did not receive an invoice. No, we did not spend we did not get any funds for that input.
So how did we get here? And why am I talking about this now? In reference to the ordinance is moot comment in Doug Fisher's email, the bottom line is this. Ken brought to this board's attention his concerns about a large number of lots in the beach club used for camping. To me, he failed to make a convincing argument as to what the problem was, let alone the solution. This board disagreed with him 2-1, and yet he persisted. I made a motion to table the issue for a year so the beach club could sort out their legal problems, and in a vote for 2-1, it was passed, but he still persisted in considering a referendum that he knew would be non-binding. So instead of getting us to agree with him on the merits, he wants to replace me with someone who will. And Corey, I'd like to add an agenda item, Mary Helen, if you take a note, for the April meeting. I'd like to produce evidence and discuss why Chairman Lenners should abstain from any discussion or vote concerning any town ordinance regulating the use of recreational vehicles on private property. Do you have any questions about anything, Corey or Ken?
Okay, Corey, I got a few comments when you're done.
No, I'm all right. Go ahead, Ken.
Just need to address and clarify a few statements that are untrue. Tony, you've stated that I want to replace you. You've asked me that question, and I've said no. The only two people I tried to recruit for this upcoming election was Mary Helen, because she stated that she was going to not run again, and I tried to find someone for myself, because I'm already 2 years beyond where I initially intended to serve. So, you've asked me, did I recruit? I told you no. You've asked multiple people, Doug Fisher, he's told you no. You've asked Tom Goodman, he's told you no. But yet you still are saying that I went out and put in some sort of effort to have you replaced, and that is a false statement. And Mary, I'll make sure you capture this in the minutes. A couple of comments. You keep talking about this ordinance. I'm going to clarify once again, the ordinance is a non-issue because it has been superseded by the judge's ruling. At the time, it made sense. And I'll tell you why it made sense in a moment. But since she made her ruling, it's a non-issue. It's totally a non-issue. So I don't know why you're concerned with that, but that's fine. So I'm going to clarify a few things or remind people of a few things. Only Barron County can issue temporary dwelling permits, and that's partly because we adopted their land use ordinance, and we basically delegated the management of the land use ordinance to them. We can make certain ordinance sections less strict too. We make them stricter, but we cannot make them less strict. So basically, the only ones that can issue a temporary dwelling permit are the county. The town board cannot issue temporary dwelling permits. The Lockwood Beach Club cannot issue temporary dwelling permits. And any other person or organization within a 36 square mile cannot issue temporary dwelling permits. You remind folks that the LLPC area falls under the town's jurisdiction. The town board governs our 36 square mile township. The LLPC is not a private organization. The building might be, but the land is not, the roads are not, the taxes are not. The LLPC, it falls under the jurisdiction of the town board. And I also want to let folks know that this problem we're talking about, it goes well beyond Mid-Numbers Lake. If you look at last week's chronotype, you're going to see an article in there that addresses this. Our neighbors to the north are very concerned with campsites. These are legal campsites, by the way, licensed ones. They're concerned about similar issues. So I am not of the opinion to just sit back and wait and see. And to sit back and wait and
So,
Yeah, that's all I've got.
okay, so, and that kind of validates what we talked about before, about when I asked you if this ordinance was no longer an issue. You said it was actually more important now because once the beach club, if they settle and cause people to start removing campers, that the town would have to have the authority to make it happen if the beach club couldn't. Isn't that summary what you said?
Let me clarify what I said. When you and I had this conversation, it was before the judge's written ruling, because you stated you wanted to see that written ruling. So what I stated was, if necessary, the ordinance would be reviewed. Since then, seeing the judge's written ruling, it would go against your ruling if I were to even pursue trying to assess a fee. So, what you stated is not true. The truth does change, I admit that. But, the answer is no, I have no intention whatsoever of reintroducing the ordinance as written. There might be other ordinances that I introduce based on the evolution of this topic, that whether you're referring to is mute.
Okay, and the last thing I'll say that the WPOA, who you're completely familiar with, obviously, is currently endorsing the person that who's running against me. So I think it's pretty obvious, what's being done there. So that's all I had on this, and if we can discuss it further in April, but I'd like to have that on the agenda.
Well, one more comment. You stated something to the effect that WPOA is giving me information or somehow influencing me. No. I make my own decisions. I'm not afraid to make decisions. I'm not afraid to be proactive. So, I have a question for you, Tony. Why do you constantly refer to the WPOA? And you paint them to be some sort of negative entity, when in fact they are not the plaintiffs of the lawsuit. I am not a member of them. I have not contributed any funds to them. Why are you trying to make this connection between the WPOA, which is simply a communication tool, and myself?
Well, primarily because we're trying to get this board to pass an ordinance that would institute what they want seen done at the beach club. And Tom Goodwin's been in front of the board discussing the lawsuit. He was discussing the outcome of the lawsuit as the plaintiff, who's also a member of the WPOA. And I'm not trying to disparage the WPOA. That has not been my intention. I'm not for the campers. I'm not for the WPOA. I'm for the taxpayers of the town of Cedar Lake. And I think they should know what's going on when it comes to this board and what it's being asked to do when it comes to somebody's private property use, whether or not they want to have a camper on it. And it is a complicated issue. I will admit that. And a lot of folks that are here tonight had no clue that this was going on. And I just want to make sure they know. And if that influences the election and April's my last meeting, well then, I'll let the voters decide on that.
Okay. I need to clarify that this is not a land rights issue. This is a contract violation issue. Specifically, if the Lockland Beach Club boards past and present, that enforces CNRs, and if the current property owners who use the property as campsites have followed the COR contract and other contract documents that they signed, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Everything that happened after those two negligent acts of failing to follow or failing to enforce CNRs is simply a symptom of the its figures, I'm not gonna go into the details of that, but I'm gonna tell you, and anyone who wants copies of the math, the formula, I can give that to you. But for every obligation, for every dollar spent, the campers are only paying 6% of every obligation to the town. I'm not talking about the other three jurisdictions, I'm talking about the township. So, for every $100, and you keep sliding these decimals as far as you want, but for every $100 that we spend, the campers are paying $6 on average, and the homeowners are paying $94 on average. So that's important, as you mentioned. People do need to know, and they need to know that before they go to the voting booth, because they're going to have to make a decision. Do they continue to subsidize and pay for a group of individuals who are here essentially illegally because they have violated their covenants of restriction as confirmed by the judge, or not? And that's what needs to be discussed and shared for information. No land rights issue, none of this other stuff. The fact is, they violated their covenants of restrictions, and now everyone will have to deal with their negligence.
Well, that's where the disagreement has come with the board, because in my view, it has nothing to do with, beach clubs' covenants and restrictions have nothing to do with the town's, authority, and that's where we've disagreed and probably will continue to in the future, so.
But the consequences of their that directly affect every single home, every single property owner within the town of Cedar Lake. So that therefore it does become our issue. And again, they fall under our jurisdiction. So the fact that they can't figure out the government's restrictions and model them, yeah, absolutely, the results affect every single property owner in the township, not just today, but in the future. Every time a site is sitting there as a campsite versus a home site, that revenue which we need to operate is being blocked. It's being blocked today, and until it's fixed, it's going to be blocked, for a long, long time. So that's the issue, and that's why we need to do something about it rather than sit back and say wait and see.
Well, that's the argument you made before, and that, I don't go along with that view, so. All right, so that was all I had on that. Any other questions? I guess we can move on then.
Well, Ken, before you go, the next item on the agenda is correspondence received. Did you have anything you wanted to discuss tonight?
No, I am not staying. I do not have anything I want to discuss tonight.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Well, anytime. Don't shut down.
No, I won't hang up on you.
Yeah,
Okay.